Hi guys, I'm going to do a video today that's a little bit different to the usual hair, makeup, beauty product kind of video that I do. It's actually been a requested video, which is why I'm doing it, and as you can see from the title, it's basically my take on tips that I think would result in a good interview result. Common questions and answers that I'd be looking for if I interviewed somebody. The reason I'm doing this, it was a requested video, and I did say in one of my videos that I was a manager for a company, so obviously I've had to do interviews myself and I've had interviews myself. So I'm going to try and just run through the points like briefly, because I don't want to ramble on too much, because it doesn't kind of relate to everybody and every job. But the first thing I would say that is really important for any interview is to have a good CV, because if you don't have a good CV, I'm not even going to bother interviewing you. I've had CVs in the past that have been 4 pages long and they've been full of mistakes, so those people initially, if I'm looking for one person to fill one position and I get 20 CVs on my desk, I'm going to scan through all the CVs, and the ones that take my fancy I'm going to interview. The ones where I've seen mistakes on the CVs, I'm not going to even bother interviewing. I'm just going to send them a rejection letter just based on their CV. So I would say try and get your CV onto one page. All you need is a cover letter to go with it to say why you're applying for the position and a little bit about yourself. And then you obviously need just your personal information, your qualifications, and then some references, and that's all you need on a CV. You don't need to go into details of everything that you've ever done in your life, because when you're applying for a job, you need a CV that's just going to stand out like that with no mistakes. So don't ever give in your CV without proofreading it first, because the amount of times I've seen people make mistakes and they've put like, or they've just put double words in, or they've spelt something wrong, or they've swapped words around that don't make any sense, or they've put in the wrong company name and they're applying for my company and they've put someone else's company on there because obviously they've applied for 10 different jobs. Those people are not going to get interviews, are they? So that's the first thing, having a really good CV, if you can, just on one A4 piece of paper. You don't need it any longer than that, because the interviewer is going to get bored basically. So my second tip is basically do your research on the company, because if you're applying, for example, if you're applying to MAC to get a job as a makeup artist or as a, someone that helps, a salesperson, make sure you know about the products that they sell, make sure you know whether they're worldwide, make sure you know a bit about where the company is and their, what makes them different to other brands. So do they test on animals? Do they have, do they test on animals? Do they use specific, vegan products? What do they do that's different to other companies? And that will then help you answer the question, why do you want to work for our company? Do they have a good reputation? Is it a brand that you use? You need to think of, basically, you need to know about the company before you can apply for them, because if they, if they ask you in the interview, why are you looking to work for us? You need to be able to specifically tell them things about themselves that make them think, oh, so she's done her homework, she knows about the company, and it's a lot easier to to work for somebody if you know a little bit about the company, and it looks like you've actually taken the time to prepare yourself for the interview. Number 3, look presentable at your interview. So if you go in and your blouse or your shirt is creased up and you've got stains on your top and your shoes aren't polished and your hair is like a hot mess, then they're not even gonna bother. I mean, they're gonna take one look at you, because they'll judge you within the first 3 seconds of seeing you, and if they don't think that you look presentable, they're just gonna think, well, if you can't look after yourself, you're not gonna look after a customer, are you? Let's be fair. So I would say a lot of I think it's just human nature that you base people on kind of what they look like, and you just think, well, actually, if you can't even be bothered to dress yourself for an interview, then I don't really think I want you working for me. So I think having minimal kind of makeup, having nice looking skin, having your hair tied back so you're not fiddling with it, I think all of those things, making sure your shoes are clean, you've got no holes in your tights, all of those kind of things go towards selling you, because that's what an interview is. You're there to sell yourself to that company. So the next point is, a lot of people think that when you're, you know, don't be nervous for an interview, blah blah blah, but I actually find that the people that are more nervous when they have interviews are the people that I actually prefer working for me, because they're obviously nervous because they want the job. I mean, that's kind of how I see it. I see it, if they get nervous about something, it's because they want it. I have interviewed people in the past that just look really relaxed, look really just like they don't want to be there, and they just, you know, they're not interested in what I'm saying. They haven't done any research on anything. They're sat there, they're not looking at me while I'm asking the questions. They're sat there with their arms folded and they're slouched in the chair. Those people are not going to get the job. You need to sit there, you need to look alert, you need to look awake, you need to be courteous, you need to be polite. And again, that's just another way to make you look like a nice person. If I just think you're sat here in an interview, you're trying to impress me, yet you don't look like you're bothered about being here, I'm not going to give you the job. And you know, this is all before you've answered any questions in the interview. This is all about your appearance and how you come across. And this is before I've asked you any questions. These are the things I'm looking for already. So I don't necessarily think nerves are a bad thing. Obviously, going back to kind of the whole reputation of what they're going to think of you, be on time. Oh my god, if you're late for an interview, I'm not going to take you on. There is absolutely no way I would take you on if you were late for an interview, because I just think, again, that's your time to sell yourself. That's the time that you're supposed to be telling me how wonderful you are. And if you can't be bothered to turn up on time, then who's to say that when you start working for me, you're actually going to be bothered and you're actually going to come in. So being on time, looking presentable, a little bit nervous, not too overconfident. These are all the things that you can do and to come across well without having answered any questions yet. So some of the questions that I tend to ask and that I know that are quite common interview questions are about your previous jobs, because what we're really trying to find out there, and what other people, when they've asked me in the past what previous jobs, I've always thought, what the hell do they want to know? But obviously they want to know the skills that I've got. They want to know that if I've worked in retail before, have I dealt with angry customers? Have I dealt with money? Have I had to manage people? Have I had to deal with difficult colleagues? They want to know all the skills that you've accumulated in the past, and that's why it's really important to have somewhere on your CV, even if you have found it really difficult to get a job in the past, go out and get some work experience, because I've done work experience for my uncle's company, I've done work experience for where I worked before I got a job there, I've done, you know, volunteering work somewhere. All of this looks good because it just builds up your skills. So don't think that, oh god, I'm working here for a week and I'm not getting paid for it, it's not going to help me. It is something that you're going to put on your CV, and then potential employers going to look at it and they're going to go, you know what, she did this for an entire week, she learned all this stuff out of it and she wasn't even paid for it. And to me that's quite impressive, because that's you taking your time out to better yourself and you're not getting any kind of financial gain from it. So, and obviously when you're, you know, if you're working for a company and you tell them that you've worked in a call centre, you know, and you're just sat there answering phones, you start thinking, okay, well, you've got to have a conversation with somebody that you don't know over the phone, and you've got to keep it going, you've got to make them comfortable. If they're angry, you've got to, you know, you've got to calm the situation down. So again, people skills are just really important. Where if you've sat there kind of in a warehouse by yourself stacking shelves, I'm thinking, well, should I really put you on the shop floor as like a salesperson if you're not used to talking to random people? So the reason really you're asked about previous jobs is because they want to know what skills you've got. Another question that's commonly asked is, why are you leaving your last job? So obviously a really bad answer for this would be, I can't stand my boss and he's a pervert. Because nobody wants to know that, you know, no one wants to know those kind of things. So really I think the answers that you should be giving are kind of things like, well, I've been with the company a long time, I wanted to try some new skills, I think I've learnt most of my skills, you know, to do the job as best I can there, and I thought it was time to move on and use my skills somewhere else, build my skills, and then, you know, set myself a new challenge. I've got aspirations to do this, and in your company I think I'd have more of a chance of doing that. You need to basically big up that company, say why you want to work for them, and tell them how you can use your skills from your old company to bring them to your new company, and that will then benefit them as well. But obviously you need to look like you have some sort of aspiration, because if they ask you what are you going to do in 10 years time and you say, oh, I'm going to be doing the same job, they're just going to think you've got absolutely no aspirations, you've got no inspirations, and you're not motivated. You just, you know, they're not going to be impressed with that. So how have you dealt with a difficult situation in the past? Because they basically want to know how you think. So if you're for example, if you sit there and say, I've never been in a difficult situation, they're just going to think, okay, well, either she hasn't really thought about her answers, or she's just lying, or she has never been in a situation because she's tried